Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. We're going to be looking at the Legend of the Stars tournament today. This is the finals, and it's actually taking place today and tomorrow. I'm live casting all the games today, and then I'll be picking up the cast for some of the games tomorrow, and we'll see who can pull out the win. The prize pool for this tournament is 700 euros. So there is quite a substantial first prize waiting for whoever can take it home. In this current matchup, we've got Blastchild versus Whiteheart. Blastchild is on the top left, UEF in that very interesting green color over there. Maybe he's trying to camouflage against the map. Then we've got Whiteheart on the south side. Looks like first land, a couple of P-gens, and then a massive land spam after a second air factory on the Hydro for Whiteheart. Then on the north side, we have worst player in the EU. Okay, then if you think that, looks like we've got 3 power generators on the first land factory, then moving up, interesting power placements up here, but taking full advantage of the adjacency, definitely, and air factory going up on the front there as well. It would appear that perhaps Blastchild will get his up a little bit quicker because he did get an earlier start, but his ACU is not walking up towards the front. He may have forgotten to place a move order, so he will lose that lead that he had. Might have been all of these manual reclaim orders that he was placing over to the right-hand side. Something to remember about Twin Rivers is that you need tons of land units, because while it may seem like there's little choke points here and there, you do have to control the entire wide open space in the middle in order to protect these expansions where you get 8 mexes on each side as long as you can hold it. So you have got to get your units out on the front line. This is a relatively conservative number of land factories, and it makes me wonder if he is going to go for pillar spam. Something to remember about Twin Rivers. What now? Open Palms. Sorry if I mistook the map name. I am kind of rushing into this since I was late getting up for the tournament, as Google lied to me about the time zone shift for what time the tournament actually was. Gotta love daylight savings times, because one week it's one time and the next week it's the next time, even though GMT doesn't change. Looks like we've got a little bit of aggression headed out on the right. Mantis followed with a scout, headed over this way to try to pick up that engineer that Whiteheart surely knows is coming at some point. Air factory just about completed for Whiteheart, so we may get to see what is going on there. And then we've actually got a second land factory up for Blastchild. Second land for both of these guys. I miscalculated the number on that factory. So Whiteheart's going to build more land factories with his ACU. Looks like a total of 8 on the front with 1 in the back makes 9. Quick maths. And then we've got 6, 7 for Blastchild. Pick up the scout, so he does know that there is a Mantis over on this side. He might be able to save that engineer, but he will need to get a couple of tanks over to stop that pest before it's able to do any serious damage. Another Mantis picked up on the left, and we've now got a roughly even number of units out of the factory. Air Scout for Whiteheart. Looks like neither of these guys went for the early bomber. Blastchild is just a tick behind on his air build, but nothing significant that could crimp him in any way. Looks like both of these guys have used a relatively similar build overall, but now they're starting to diverge, as we can start to see less power going down in the back here for Blastchild using only 2 engineers. And we've got 2 engineers building a fairly substantial amount of power there, probably due to running the extra land factories. We've got Mantis over on the left that are going to lose that engagement straight up to the strikers moving in. But with the addition of tanks from the factory, that should get shut down pretty quickly. This pesky Mantis is still alive. It could potentially still go grab something. It does have that 1 kill from the scout. I know that's got to be on radar. Why is he not going to kill it? He knows it's an engineer. He knows it's sitting over there undefended. I guess he's just devoting his attention elsewhere and not worrying about the expansioneer. This is an important pickup, because if these units are able to slip into the back it can cause quite a bit of chaos when you're trying to build your 3 mass extractors in the rear, maintain all of this stuff, and you have a little raiding tank that you've got to pay attention to in your back corridor. Just one of those things, it's like a little worm in your brain, takes away from your attention, destroys your APM potential because you've got to refocus on things, and you have got to get rid of those as quickly as you can to maintain the upper hand. Looks like we've got a bomber out, immediately followed by a scout, so he's going to go see what he can pick up with that son of a gun. Looks like power build is about finished over here. Did not finish picking up all of the reclaim in his base. We take a look-see at the map. Looks like, yes, Whiteheart has completed all of his. However, Blast Shield is expanding a little bit faster than Whiteheart is. Got a 6 mass per tick advantage because of his extra mass extractors under his control. That might change though, because we do have a little clump of Mantis here. That looks like about the same number of units, but you will notice that there is T1 artillery over on this side, whereas Whiteheart has gone for all Mantis. Typically, when you have that kind of matchup, the tanks will win out over an artillery mix as long as the person is microing appropriately. Because if you run in straight lines or let your unit stand still, of course, the artillery is going to wreck it. T1 bomber raiding on the right, finally got that Mantis out to kill that engineer. Actually, that one is moving to the back. The bomber may have gotten the engineer. Can you kill it? No, the mass extractor is shielding the engineer if that indeed was the target. So the Engi's going to stay up in the back and finish that expansion. But 5 Mantis over to the right are going to succeed in shutting down Blast Shield's move into the right portion of the map. This is very difficult to call as of yet, but it does look like there's a few more blue units on the map, so Whiteheart may have a little bit of an advantage here. Let's take a look. See, 31 Mantis versus 32 Strikers, so they're just not in the optimal placement to stop the run-bys. Looks like Whiteheart has taken the lead thanks to the death of that expansion. I do not see a T2 factory upgrade anywhere, so no T2 shift as of yet for Blast Shield, but we do have a factory going down adjacent to power generators, which could mean that there is a T2 in our near future. Alright, Blast Shield's re-secured his expansion, but now he's got to get expansioneers over there to rebuild those mexes. He's going to lose. No! Anti-air Mantis wrecking his air force. That leaves him with 5 remaining. Trying to see where, if any, there are interceptors. That still leaves him ahead of where Whiteheart is. Whiteheart not prioritizing the anti-production. Blast Shield is going to overextend his ACU here. That seems a little sketchy to me, but he is bringing his force up behind him. Don't think he's going to be in any danger as of yet, but that is a sketchy call to make. Let's take a look at his intel. He does have a scout looping over the front, so he does know where those T1 tanks are, so perhaps it was not as sketchy as I initially thought. Transport moving out for Blast Shield. We did see one from Whiteheart just a moment ago. That is going to reach the plateau first, so it is going to be an NG war, I do believe. We'll have to see who can win out on that one. Looks like 4 versus 4 even. It's an even fight. Blast Shield is going to stop that run by. This is the advantage of having the horseshoe shape here. You can build all your power inside it, and as long as you guard the mouth, your power can't get killed by run-bys. However, that means you've got a bunch of concentrated stuff back here, and if a bomber were to penetrate your perimeter, you're going to lose some valuable stuff. Looks like Whiteheart is copying Blast Shield's ACU move, going to secure that expansion. He does have enough tanks with him for his ACU to make the difference in the fight and to win that, but he's going to take the cautious move, retract just a little bit, and then grab those mexes, and also a point defense is going to go down to guard the ACU. So it looks like Blast Shield is just content to reclaim. Perhaps he saw that factory. Perhaps nope, he does not have it. But Whiteheart does have a radar, so he knows that there are engineers up in the corner. There's quite a substantial amount of reclaim over there that you do need to grab if you are going for the plateaus. Looks like Blast Shield is going to pick up this a little bit late. That was a relatively effective raid. Going to pick up a mass extractor, a radar, a couple of units, but overall it is going to get shut down. It would have been nice if he could have continued running, because there's no units back here, no point defense to guard a single striker in the way that's just been built. if he were able to slip past, he would have been able to do quite a bit of damage with those. As we all know, the Mantis are quicker than the Strikers, so they would not have been able to catch it before they did the damage. Mantis there going to pick up a Mass Extractor as well. Looks like Blast Shield is starting to slip further in economy. We've got 59 mass per tick for Petrick versus 41 for Blast Shield. That's going to give a pretty substantial production boost to Whiteheart, who has now got a T2 land factory, dropped a couple of T2 engineers, probably going to go for power, possibly a tac defense, just to make sure that something nasty doesn't slip into his base. And that's going to pretty much end it if Blast Shield is not able to respond appropriately. He's seen the T2 units, he's now moved his engineers to assist the factory, so if he's able to get pillars out very quickly, he might still recover, but the unit deficit is very high on this map. We've got Whiteheart now down to 63 mass per tick, Blast Shield at 49, so closing the gap slightly, but still 13 behind. That is going to increase, though, because Whiteheart is now dropping the other plateau, so he can secure all of those mass extractors as well as the reclaim. Blast Shield is also up in the corner, though, so we may get to have a rematch on that fight. Looks like Blast Shield is on 3,600 reclaim, whereas Petrick is on 4,300, although that looks like a bit of a power stall to me. What are you upgrading that you need that much power for? You are hardcore rushing a T2 power generator. That is the answer to that question. Now he's going to be pretty well positive. Should be able to make things work. Blast Shield doing a bit better at balancing, but he is not trying to rush something so aggressively, so it should be understood that he will be able to keep a handle on his economy a little bit better. Anytime you devote that much build power to something, you're always going to have too much mass install power, or you're just going to throw your whole economy out of whack, but I guess you gotta have it when you're probably going for a loyalist rush, but no, there are still T2 units producing. So not quite yet. Not quite yet. Gotta love it when there's units hanging off the side of a cliff, destroying all of your valuable mexes. It'd be nice if you could go deny that, but unfortunately tanks are not going to be able to fire up onto the plateau, so you gotta deal with it with Artie. Those two mass extractors are now lost, so that means Petrick's gonna be able to hold those and possibly harass this base now that the ACU has left. On the other side, looks like Whiteheart has gotten his factory down, is building the mexes, and he is going to secure this as well. I don't know what on earth Blast Shield was thinking, dropping his engineers at the rear and only going for reclaim. That seems like a bad plan, but maybe that's just me. You know, I am not the best ladder player, so I will not deign to judge. Looks like we've got a triad going down in the base. Blast Shield just trying to protect his core here. He is going to lose the outside, I think. There are so many units over here, and there's no point defense in the back. So few Medusa in this mix. Whiteheart has barely mixed any T1 artillery in, but that's probably due to the fact that this is a tank versus tank war, and as of yet there aren't any pillars on the front, but here comes the first couple. And once these T2 units hit the front line, you really want to have some Medusas in your mix, because if the Medusas are able to land hits, they might not do much damage, but they do stun the units. Stops movement, stops damage, and gives your army the upper hand. We've got T2 going down on the ACU over in the right, so I think Petrick is feeling pretty comfortable with his placement. And then we've got a T2 power generator for Blast Shield finally going down. That'll put him back on par power-wise with Whiteheart. But we're now seeing a roughly double economy for Petrick. He is going to be able to mass spam whatever he wants, and Blast Shield is not going to be able to keep up. Looks like Rhino spam is the name of the game, not even moving to the Loyalist phase. Blast Shield may be able to make a last-ditch effort here. If he can kill off enough of these units and get some reclaim, he might be able to either get enough pillars out to threaten map control, or maybe get a T3 shift and go for a couple of Percivals, but that would probably be an exceedingly bad idea. I don't know, sometimes bad ideas work well though, because he's already lost so much map control that I don't know. He might be better off with stronger units in one spot than weaker units spread all over the place. Whiteheart is probably going to start T2PD creeping into the base. That's going to restrict the unit movement for Blast Shield and force him further and further into the corner. Looks like we've got a T2 engineer going down over here to a raiding party that was trying to build a T2 point defense. By the time you resort to building T2 point defense on a map like Open Palms, I think that you are probably already in danger of losing the game. I don't know, I've got nothing against a couple of point defense over here because that can save your base on some occasions, but there's really not a place for point defense out in the further reaches unless you're doing something like this. Gun upgrading 33%. If only he could have waited to get his ACU up there with these combat units, he might have done a little better, but he is going to lose a substantial amount of his forces and not going to bring his commander to the front. If his ACU had had the gun upgrade and been up there to overcharge a couple of these tanks and the point defense, he might have been able to overpower the units in the area and threaten a kill on Whiteheart's commander. But as it stands, that was the majority of his forward forces. I don't think there's anything he can do to come back from this one now that Whiteheart has got an additional T1 point defense in the back and is now spamming up 3 or 4 Cerberus turrets. Why on earth are you building and then switching? Some pro level strategy that I'm not aware of. And also building the shield in front of the point defense seems a little weird. Not gonna lie. Alright, looks like the map control is actually swinging back in Blast Shield's favor. Petrick has moved most of his units over to the right. A lot of what was on the left was T1, and thankfully Blast Shield was able to kill some of that, or at least enough to secure his expansions, but now he's in a situation where he's got 0 combat units on the front line, so this expansion will probably fall shortly, as we're already seeing with the Medusas on the front. He's trying to rebuild his T1 mexes and get his foot back in the door as far as a victory condition on this game, but no, he is going to run into the point defense. 4 Cerberus turrets going down. He's already lost about a third of his health. He needs his units with his commander to try to soak some damage down to 7,000 HP, 6,000 by the time he gets out of range of those Cerberus turrets. Bad thing about Cerberus turrets, you cannot dodge them. They will hit you no matter what because the projectile speed is so high. But he now has a mobile shield moving in with all of his units. Too bad he doesn't have more T1 artillery in the mix because the Lobos are able to just disintegrate anything under their firing range. Massive alpha damage on those sons of guns. Looks like we've got focus fire on the T2 tanks by the point defense. Whiteheart retreating slightly. He's lost a Cerberus turret, but all of those T1 point defense are still firing. Looks like Blast Shield has overextended. If those T1 point defense focus fire his commander, he is going to die very quickly indeed. 3,200 HP. He's out of range of the T1, but the T1 can still shred his units. He lost his interceptors to flak, while trying to protect his ACU from the Corsairs. Looks like he's got 1,700 HP remaining. That's enough for 2 passes, more if he dodges from those Corsairs. He's dodged just a little bit, tiny little sidestep, made most of the damage miss. Now he's got flak on his ACU, so he might live to fight another day. There's the veteran C, 3,300 HP on the ACU. That's going to get him out of harm's way for the time being. Going to dip back below the 3K mark thanks to another Corsair coming in. And now there is a Trebuchet on the front line. Impact, several hundred damage. Now below 2K HP. You need to overcharge some freaking units. And the artillery shell takes it. Yikes, that was an interesting game right there. I thought for a couple of times that Blast Shield might be able to pull that one back out. Petrick had such a massive lead in economy over basically the whole portion of that game. I really do think that if Blast Shield had waited for about 45 seconds, gotten the gun upgrade on the ACU, and made that initial push work with as few units as Petrick had near his ACU, he might might have been able to pull off the kill. But from that point on, too many PD, too many units, and then T3 moving up to the front, there was no chance. Alright, GG to both you guys. Let's go back out to the challenge page and see if we can pick another game. That is going to wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.